Arsenal and Chelsea meet again on the weekend, this time for a prize, the Conti Cup. So, let's talk about it. Two of the big WSL dogs, Arsenal and Chelsea, are going to fight it off on Sunday, March 5th for the Conti Cup final. Arsenal eliminated Manchester City in a 1-0 victory in extra time in the semi-final. Chelsea finds itself after an extremely comfortable 7-0 win over West Ham United. Crazy enough, to help us preview what is going to be taking place on the weekend, last weekend, just under 5 days ago, the two met each other in the 5th round of the FA Cup. Blues winning 2-0 at home, a goal from Ingle and a goal from the mighty Sam Kerr. And a popular opinion, and I say this quite comfortably, Chelsea have been quite literally Arsenal's biggest nightmare and just kryptonite in the last few years. Since the last time Arsenal got their hands on a cup, which was the league back in 2018-2019 season, Chelsea have gone and collected 8 trophies. That included a treble season as well as 2 doubles, which is the Conti Cup, the FA Cup, and the WSL League title. So let's start off with Arsenal. This was supposed to be the season that they were going to go in strong. Beth Mead is on the form of her life. The team is looking strong. Recruitment is looking fairly decent. Jonas Eidevall is coming in with big hopes, and then boom, they're getting hit with 2 ACL injuries. Beth Mead and Viviana Miedema, arguably some of their most important players that the squad has had for the last 4 years. Since last season, Viviana Miedema and Beth Mead have been involved in over 66% of Arsenal's overall goals, whether that be goals them scoring or assisting those goals on the pitch. So 2 of the most important players really for how Arsenal have been building the last few years are completely out for the season. In the January window, Arsenal went out and got some pretty promising players. Obviously, Katrine Kuhl, Gio was recalled, and Palova obviously being signed from Ajax. Good, promising young talent. However, it's well known that they were after a striker and they wanted to sign a striker, and I think it is going to be a very costly mistake or decision to not be able to sign a striker in January. Obviously, I'm not on the board. Obviously, I'm not a budgeting financial accountant or whatever, but when you're a team as lucrative and as luxurious as Arsenal, you have to be able to lure in a striker. You have to be able to attract a great enough striker that is willing to sign with you in January. There was that huge bid against Russo, but that was pretty much on deadline day. They were after Chloe Lacasse. Benfica wasn't really willing to selling her. Arsenal weren't willing to bid in very high. Debinha was also rumored, and so there was clearly negotiations going on. So now they're dealing with having to sort out new players and mixing them into the squad, and you're also dealing with that disadvantage of not being able to sign a striker, and that was extremely apparent in that Chelsea game. Perfectly for the conversation, right after the window, they took on Chelsea at the Emirates, 1-1 draw. Arguably, Arsenal should have won that game. And I say should have because they had control of the majority of the game. They lost it in the last 5 minutes. They got careless, lost focus. And Chelsea are a team that you simply cannot lose a second of focus around. And they've shown to punish teams over and over and over again. And in some ways, you have to give credit and you have to recognize how consistently threatening Chelsea is. They do this so consistently, and it doesn't matter if they're playing a championship team in the 8th round of something. And it doesn't matter if it's a final at Wembley. They do this constantly at home, away, against any team. They are so consistent with being clinical and threatening and jumping the opportunities when any other team messes up. That first game, though, reinstated again how close those teams are, but I think in some ways it was a bit kind of positive for Arsenal to say, well, you know what, even though we're down Beth Mead and Viviana Miedema, we're still drawing with Chelsea, which is not a bad result, I wouldn't say. This FA Cup game was pretty much the same exact narrative, but this time Chelsea was even more clinical. We can sit down and talk about gameplay and players and formation and study the footage that I've been able to study over and over and time again. It's a game of very small margins, and those small margins when it comes to the Arsenal versus Chelsea are going to be how clinical and efficient you are. Both managers can come up with the most threatening game plans. They can have the best starting 11, and if you are not clinical and you're not efficient with your chances, you're simply not going to win that game. It's really that razor thin margin that separates who wins and who loses. And for Chelsea, they're still dealing with Pernille Harder being out. Obviously, Frank Kirby is also out after catching something in the West Ham game. And so even for Chelsea, they're dealing with injuries. And so coming into this game, in a way, it was very split even with both teams dealing with injuries. Both of them are coming out of the international window. More so, definitely Arsenal. They had Lena Hurtig being out. Sabrina D'Angelo was also ruled out. Again, Viviana Miedema and Beth Mead out, major, massive hit. With both teams being hit with their own disadvantages, it was going to come down to those small margins. And ultimately, the key word of that game was going to be clinical. First goal, Lauren James. I mean, we can just sit and talk and make our own long video about Lauren James, but on Arsenal's side, you can't give her that much space. Lauren James with the ball, she's going to cause chaos and she's going to cause trouble. And that's exactly what she did. That second goal, a giveaway from Manu Zinsberger. Distribution should have been a lot better than that. Again, specifically against a team like Chelsea, they're going to punish you. You give Sam Kerr the ball, she's going to put it in the back of the net. They're clinical and they're absolutely brutal. You cannot make mistakes at all in front of any of the Chelsea players. Specifically in that game, I thought Sophie Ingle was brilliant. She's that type of player that doesn't get enough praise, and I would say, hopefully, if she starts or if she plays the next game, really look at her positioning. She's always in the right place in the right time, and that can't be by coincidence. She's obviously one of the most experienced vets on the squad, but her ability to just maneuver everything going around, dictate. She's a great leader on the team, but what she does off the ball and allow pockets for her teammates is such great work. Specifically going back to that Manu Zinsberger mistake, I think, and I'm going to be a little bit harsh here, but Zinsberger is a great goalkeeper. There's no disputing that. She already holds multiple records in the WSL, specifically when it comes to clean sheets. I mean, she is one of the best shot stoppers in the game, in the women's football game in general, when it comes to shot stopping. She does have a consistent issue with building up from the back and having proper distribution, which is an issue because Jonas loves to build in the back. You look at that Chelsea game, 61% of the passes that Arsenal had in that second half were backwards passes, which in my opinion is tactically not what you want to do against Chelsea when you're actually down. Those distribution passes, you cannot have turnovers against Chelsea. You cannot cheaply give away the ball, specifically in a possession that is in their final third, right? Because, like I mentioned, Chelsea are going to punish you for that. Finishing off that first half, Arsenal had all the momentum. They had a spell of attack. Caitlin Ford was playing on the wing against Niamh Charles and causing all kinds of chaos. It looked like Arsenal was almost a step in to score that goal. Start of that second half, there was a lot of back passes. There was a lot of patience. There was no pace. It didn't look like Arsenal was down. It didn't look like it was a team that was trying to attack and score and quickly equalize. And worst of all, it didn't look like they were trying to carry that momentum that they finished off in the first half. And what confused me even more is that Caitlin Ford wasn't matched up on the left with Niamh Charles. Even though it caused her a lot of trouble, it was changing that Chelsea formation a lot. It was causing problems and even got Niamh Charles corded. For Jonas not to come out and put Caitlin Ford there, it took so much of that momentum. Before you even know it, Manu makes a mistake. There's not so much organization in the back. Boom, you're 2-0 down. You're 2-0 down against Chelsea. Chances are you're not going to be able to put 3 goals just like that. You're simply, 1, going to be defeated a little bit. 2, confidence is going to be shattered. 3, it's simply too hard to just snatch 3 goals against Chelsea in the space of like 20 minutes. They can cause Chelsea to slip up. They can cause Chelsea's defense to make mistakes and catch them out of position. That's all great and wonderful, and they can get into that box, but if you simply can't finish and put that ball at the back of the net, you don't score, you don't win. It's really as simple as that. Football is a very simple game. You don't score, you don't win. Arsenal have got it down on how they want to press Chelsea. They did it very greatly in that first game after the break. They also did it very well in portions of this game. They got the ball into that final third. They got the ball into the positions that they want in the box, dangerous, right in front of the goal. But you have to finish. What's going to happen this Conti Cup final? Well, Chelsea definitely have all the momentum. They have all the confidence. This is a trophy that they're trying to reclaim. They want it back-to-back. Lost it last year to Manchester City. They want to get their hands back on it. They've had a week to rest. They're just coming off a team that they beat 2-0 at home. I mean, why would they not come in thinking they're absolutely going to win this game? They're going to snatch it. They've got the momentum. Chelsea are going to go in pretty comfortable and in some ways are trying to replicate exactly what they did last time. Be clinical, punish Arsenal when they have a bit of a fumble in the back, get 1, 2 in, and just remain focused and composed for the rest of the game. For Arsenal, they're going to come in with an idea of revenge. They're trying to prove a statement against a team who has continuously knocked them out, beat them, and snatched trophies from them. When you look at the history, they've won the Conti Cup the most amount of times, and if they can win this trophy, I think it's going to rejuvenate some of those doubts that are going around Jonas and the squad and what happens in the future, because if they miss out on the Conti Cup, they're out of the FA Cup. Now they've lost the Conti Cup. Those title hopes are looking very, very slim. If they go on another season with not a single trophy, there's going to be a lot of serious questions that Jonas Eideva and the board and the club need to start answering. Allow Caitlin Ford to execute and do what Caitlin Ford does, and if she's causing somebody chaos on the wing, make sure you put her up with that person. Don't completely tire her out where she's running an entire attacking line and can't execute and can't do what Caitlin Ford does. It's going to be a great game. It's always a great competition when these two take each other on. As a neutral, I've watched a Chelsea versus Arsenal for so many times and simply just never get bored of them. How to win the game is pretty clear. The margins, even though they're very slim and they're very tight, it's pretty clear how you have to win the game. Be clinical and be efficient with what you do, and you've pretty much pocketed a title. Is it going to be another Lauren James, Sam Kerr, Emma Hayes masterclass? Quite possibly. Is it going to be a revenge and a statement from Arsenal to finally get their hands on a title? Possibly. So many storylines that can come out of this. There's so many records to be broken. There's so many records to be set by both teams, by certain players as well in both squads, which are going to be very interesting. All I can say is make sure you tune in March 5th. Get watching. It's going to be a good one. Where do you see the weaknesses of Arsenal, and where do you see those kind of advantages of Chelsea that simply do not drop? As always, to stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game, make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube and follow me on Twitter. Now we'll see you later.